The movie begins with an immersive scene where we see Joey driving on a sinister and winding road, heading to the camp where her brother rents boats. She answers a call from her boyfriend James, who wants to know how her trip is going. James talks about their plans for the future, suggesting the idea of visiting properties together after she returns. But Joey shows a lack of interest in the conversation with her partner. Later, Joey finally arrives at the camp, where she warmly greets a strong man named Gray, whom we soon discover is her brother. Gray introduces her to two of his clients, the lively Carissa and the friendly Van, before getting back to his work. Enthusiastically, he shares his plans for an upcoming rafting trip and leaves Joey surprised by revealing that his lifelong friend, Trevor, has decided to join them, even while being on break. Joey wasn't expecting that, and her reaction isn't one of pure happiness. Shortly after, Trevor appears next to Joey, showing his excitement to participate in the adventure as soon as he heard she was going. We learn that he has just gotten out of a 3-year prison sentence, and that Gray offered him a chance to start anew in life by giving him a job in his river company. Joey's profession as a doctor is revealed, and she feels uncomfortable talking to Trevor, but pretends everything is fine. Then the group comes together, preparing for their upcoming rafting adventure, while Gray teaches them about rowing techniques. Joey has something on her mind, but gradually relaxes with the group's good spirits. Shortly after, Gray warns that they should prepare because they'll face the first rapids. Hey, the movie I'm going to summarize is called Riv3r Wlld. It's an adventure movie mixed with suspense. I don't know about you, but I prefer suspense movies that take place in the forest. That's why I invite you to stay until the end. You'll like it. But first, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and leave a like to receive the best recaps. After passing through the rapids, the group makes a stop at a paradise-like spot before heading into the forest with Gray's help to set up camp. When they finish setting up the tents, Carissa jokes about the sanitary conditions, which leads Gray to recommend finding an appropriate tree and give her pepper spray for protection. When it gets dark, they gather around a lit campfire, sharing drinks and stories. Joey feels more uncomfortable as the group insists on knowing more about her boyfriend, so she reluctantly reveals that they met at work, both as doctors. She receives praise from the girls for having an attractive doctor boyfriend, which provokes Trevor's jealousy, as he has been in love with Joey from the start. The night continues, and Joey, exhausted, asks permission to go to her tent. Shortly after, Van says she's going to talk to a tree and heads into the darkness to urinate. At that moment, Trevor, drunk, says he's going to do the same and walks away into the darkness. Meanwhile, in her tent, Joey looks at her phone, thinking about a message from her boyfriend, to which she responds with a positive message, but the poor connection prevents her message from being sent. But when Joey is about to fall asleep, everyone hears Trevor's cries for help, and the rest of the group runs to the location. In the darkness, they see Van fallen with a serious head injury, and Joey immediately orders her to lie down. Here, Trevor repeatedly claims that Van tripped and hit her head against a rock. Gray sends Trevor to look for his emergency kit and satellite phone, and Joey asks Gray to get some large branches to support Van's neck. It's at this moment that Van reveals a shocking truth. Trevor tried to attack her, leaving Joey temporarily perplexed. When Gray returns, Joey helps stop the bleeding, and then Trevor says the satellite phones are without battery. Upon hearing this, Gray says the nearest help is at a ranger station, but it will take them 2 hours of fast rowing to get there because there's no road. Given Van's serious condition due to a skull fracture, Gray orders the others to prepare, much to Trevor's irritation, as they have to row on the river in the darkness. But Gray states there is no other choice. The group quickly prepares and gets into the boat. Gray then criticizes Trevor for not having brought the phones as instructed, which triggers a heated discussion between them. Van is comforted by her friend Carissa, while Carissa remembers how she always supported her in times of illness and difficulty. After some time on the water, Van suffers seizures and Joey manages to keep her in the boat, but time is running out. With less than 60 minutes to reach their destination, Gray warns them to prepare for facing turbulent waters. When the group approaches an irregular part of the river, Gray guides the others to make sharp turns to the left and right. Everyone manages to get through the strong rapids following Gray's instructions. But at one point, everyone obeys what they were told, except Trevor, who seems lost. Because of this, the whole team is dragged by the violent current and their boat capsizes, forcing them to hold on to something to survive. Joey clings to a rock to avoid being swept away by the current, screaming for her friends. Meanwhile, Gray dives to where Van is unconscious, reaches another rock, and comes out of the water. He then carries Van to Joey, who begins CPR to revive her. Gray goes out looking for Carissa and finds Trevor alone before hearing Carissa call for help. Quickly, Gray hugs Trevor from behind, and Trevor asks Carissa to take his hand, although she hesitates upon seeing Trevor's face. After the two guys save Carissa, Joey talks privately with Gray about what really happened between Van and Trevor, expressing her opinion that Trevor deliberately rowed slowly to make the boat capsize. However, Gray dismisses her suspicions, stating that Trevor wouldn't be capable of doing something so evil. As soon as Trevor appears, the siblings pretend everything is fine. The next day, the group continues their journey, and we can notice Trevor's nervousness as they approach the ranger station. After getting out of the water, the girls stay on the riverbank waiting for Trevor and Gray to return with help from the ranger base. But Trevor stops Gray on the way. He's terrified and tells Gray it wasn't his fault and that everything happened by accident. We also learn that Trevor is an ex-convict and doesn't want any more trouble on his record. He begs Gray to be on his side, since it was because of him that he was arrested before, so Gray reassures him by saying he's with him. When they arrive at the ranger headquarters, Gray becomes worried upon seeing that no one is there. Shortly after, a car appears, and it's the ranger, and Gray explains that a girl has fallen and hit her head, needing a helicopter. The ranger goes inside to make the call, but Trevor suddenly grabs the phone, preventing him from calling for help. The ranger looks at Trevor suspiciously and tries to retrieve the phone, which results in a fight. The ranger pulls out a revolver, and Trevor surrenders at first, but then attacks the ranger to take the gun, and they begin to fight. The situation worsens when Trevor wounds the ranger with his knife and says that the ranger wanted to kill him. Gray applies pressure to the ranger's wound, trying to save him, but Trevor says it won't help. Gray says that if the ranger lives, they can call a helicopter to rescue Van, and Trevor won't be a murderer. But while struggling to revive the ranger, Trevor breaks the phone and forces Gray to swear loyalty. With difficulty, they carry the ranger to his car and throw it off a cliff. The car explodes shortly after, concealing what they've done. Then, Trevor and Gray return to the women, who want to know about the helicopter that's coming. Carissa gets scared when she sees Trevor with a gun, and Gray says they'll change plans and head to the Canadian patrol. Joey asks them about the ranger, and Trevor responds that he's dead. Joey still says that Van won't survive if they go back on the water, but Trevor doesn't change his mind. Further ahead, they continue rowing, and sadly, Van doesn't survive her injuries and dies in the middle of the river. After some time, Gray asks Trevor to stop for a moment as the two women are tired and without strength to row. In a decisive moment, a passing hiker sees the group and offers to call for help, asking if they need a helicopter. Trevor, however, calms the hiker, emphasizing Joey's medical competence and that Van only had a small accident. The hiker makes casual conversation for a moment and offers help, but Trevor rejects it, so the hiker finally leaves. As soon as the hiker leaves, Trevor suggests to Gray that they should shoot him to prevent him from calling for help or alerting the authorities, but Gray manages to convince Trevor not to do it. Gray says they need to rest after rowing for a long time in the river and that Van's burial is very important. When they reach a safe place on the shore, they bury Van, and Carissa can't stop crying, as it was she who wanted to go rafting. As they head into the forest to camp, Trevor decides to open up to Joey and Carissa, telling them that Gray isn't the good guy he seems to be. Trevor reveals a dark secret. Gray was the boss of a lucrative drug trafficking operation, but was caught for a minor offense. To save Gray, Trevor took the blame and was arrested. The amount of money Gray handled was enormous, and he was like a brother to Trevor. Besides, Trevor only had Gray and Joey as family. At the end of the night, Trevor ties up Carissa, Gray, and Joey with ropes and shows surprising kindness, asking Joey if the ropes are hurting her. Joey stays silent while Trevor wraps her with a blanket before falling asleep. When Joey asks Gray about his life, Gray confesses that he wasn't acting sensibly. He had a habit of drinking too much and making many mistakes, and he deeply regrets that and doesn't agree with what Trevor is doing now. Joey then reveals to him how she allowed Trevor to abuse her when she was 15 years old, which was a shock to him, as he thought they were a couple, and he assures her that this time he will rescue her. This confession explains Joey's discomfort around men, including her boyfriend, with whom she spoke reluctantly on the phone. Shortly after, the hiker who distrusted Trevor from the beginning appears again. He first tries to take the gun from Trevor, who appears to be deeply asleep, but Trevor holds on tight, so the hiker decides to release the captives instead. He releases Joey and explains that he realized something was wrong. That's why he followed them. But then, suddenly, Trevor wakes up and shoots the hiker without thinking twice. Enraged, he believes everything was plotted by Joey. When he's about to shoot her, Gray stops him, saying that Joey is essential for rowing the boat. The next day, Trevor orders them to bury the hiker, while Carissa furtively takes the hiker's knife that she finds in his pocket. Then, they return to the boat and continue rowing, obeying Trevor's orders. Joey and Carissa are tied with strong ropes, and Gray begs Trevor to release them, highlighting the need for at least 4 people to pass through a waterfall. Although Trevor fully trusts Gray as the boat driver, he doesn't want to release the girls. But Trevor doesn't know that Carissa has taken the hiker's knife and has punctured the bottom of the boat. After a while, Trevor notices that the boat is filling with water and blames Carissa for damaging it, but she firmly denies it. Forced to stop, Trevor asks Gray to help him repair the boat, but suddenly, to everyone's surprise, Gray throws himself at Trevor and tries to take the gun. They fight for the weapon, while Carissa struggles to free Joey from the ropes. Joey helps and orders Carissa to escape without hesitation. The girls flee into the forest while Gray buys time fighting, but then gets shot. While Trevor goes after her, a terrified Joey runs in the opposite direction, hoping to distract him from Carissa. Trevor chases Joey, but she jumps off a cliff, knowing that Trevor is afraid of heights and won't follow her. When Trevor misses the shot and loses sight of Joey, she reaches her brother, encouraging him not to give up. She helps him back to the boat so they can save themselves, while Trevor runs back to Gray, hoping to catch them. Luckily, Trevor arrives a bit late, and the siblings manage to escape from there. Then, Trevor finds 2 kayaks and kills the couple who was in them, and furiously pursues Gray and Joey. Meanwhile, Joey prepares, because Gray warns her there's a waterfall ahead in their route. Shortly after, Trevor catches up to them, and they're at the edge of the biggest waterfall, where Joey doesn't have rafting skills. Unfortunately, when they're close to falling over a waterfall, Gray slips from the boat, and Joey struggles to lift him up. Unfortunately, they are dragged by the force of the water, and the boat capsizes again. Joey manages to reach the shore, but her wounded brother is carried almost to the edge of the great waterfall. However, he manages to grab onto a nearby rock before being dragged out of the water by his sister. Joey tries to keep her brother conscious, but things get worse when Trevor reaches her and stabs her in the back. He mocks her and makes a derogatory comment about how she finally reacted. With no alternative available, Gray decides to sacrifice his life by grabbing Trevor from behind and jumping off the cliff, resulting in both their deaths. Joey watches all of this with anguish and lies down on the rock, feeling too weak to move due to the stab wound. She hears the sound of a helicopter, and soon we know that Carissa escaped from the forest and alerted the authorities about Joey and Gray. The helicopter flies for a while, searching for Joey and her brother. It's at this moment that Joey finally manages to get up and desperately waves while the helicopter passes overhead. Luckily for Joey, Carissa recognizes her silhouette and asks the rescue team to land. The movie ends as Joey sobs with relief while lying on a bed, receiving medical attention in the helicopter. And that's how the movie ends. Do you like this style of summaries? I'm going to leave a suspense playlist in the first pinned comment. Check it out. And don't forget to activate the bell to receive notifications of new summaries. Until next time.